Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for listening today. It's Will with Schedulefly here, and I have Erica Paolicelli on the phone. Erica is in New York, and she's a partner in four really awesome businesses that started with Three Brothers Winery back in 2007, and now she and her partners Dave and Luann Mansfield also have HJ Stead, which is a restaurant they opened last summer, their first restaurant. They have Warhorse Brewing Company and Ironheart Coffee Company up in Geneva, New York, and they're kicking ass and doing a lot of good stuff, and it's built a really successful business. So she's very busy, and it was awesome of her to join us today. So thank you very much, Erica.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure. I'm an avid podcast listener, so it's exciting for me to be able to be on a podcast.
Oh, that's cool. What are some of the podcasts you listen to?
Oh, geez. Well, lately I've been listening a lot to Vlog Boss Radio. I've been thinking a lot about starting a vlog for our businesses and kind of the behind the scenes of what I do. And so I've been really putting a lot of consideration into that. Of course, I listen to a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm a big
Gary
fan
V.
of his.
Yeah.
So, I listen to that mostly for inspiration in business, but there's a lot of kind of lifestyle stuff too. When you're a business owner, you know that there's not really a line between personal and actual business every day. So those two come to the top of my mind because they're the most recent. But
it's interesting because as a business owner, it never leaves you, but that's like a good thing, right? I mean, if you're doing what you love and you really enjoy building a business and running a business, it's kind of like this. I find it a blessing in a way that Schedulefly never leaves my mind. Rarely leaves my mind. It's there every day, but I don't know what I'd do without. I love it. Do you feel the same way?
I don't know what I'd do without Schedulefly either, to be honest with you.
No, I meant about your businesses. That's funny.
I do feel the same way. It's always at the top of my mind. I'm lucky, my significant other, Justin, he actually makes the wine, the hard cider, and he just actually was promoted to all of beverage production management. So I see and work with him often, and at home, we went through the phase where we're just going to kind of try to shut it off and focus on home stuff, but really there is no home stuff because it's all the time, it's always on. And so we try to just keep the conversation positive. It's always tough. There's always, in hospitality especially, I find now that we opened our restaurant concept even more, believe it or not, that there's struggles here and there, and a lot of them have to do with human resources because we depend a lot on people for all of our businesses. We have over 100 part-time employees here at the winery and microbrewery, and on site we also have a cafe. And then for the restaurant, we have a very small group. It's a teeny tiny restaurant on Linden Street in Geneva, New York. And I'm noticing that although that's our smallest project we've ever done, it's been the biggest struggle to get people. And I don't know if it has to do with the hours of operation because we do open early and close late, or if it's just hospitality. We're in kind of a rural area here, and so to find people that are being servers professionally is not the norm. You kind of have this flux of students and people who are just transitioning in life that they're not professional servers. They're just kind of trying to make buck while they're doing their little side hustle. So we're always thinking and talking about people and how to best manage them. And so I find that for me, when I'm trying to do better in business, I kind of turn to podcasts and books and things like that to try to figure out, is there something I'm missing here? Because I'm really trying,
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about that because this is something that, literally like every owner that I interview, and that's been for the podcast, and we've done a couple of books, and we've done some videos and film work, and that aspect is a big challenge for everybody. And I know that I read on one of your, somewhere on one of your websites about hospitality is at the core of everything that you do, and it's an interesting dynamic, I think, because it is for you and it's natural, and it is for Dave and Luann, and it is for some people, but for some people it's just, it's a job. And what do you do? Like, how do you try to help instill in that same philosophy into people that are just there working a job, to make an extra buck?
Well, for us, what we've been really focusing on is the experience for our staff. So, experience is always at the core of what we do at Three Brothers. It sets us apart from our competition. Of course, it's in the Finger Lakes. It's always friendly competition because the wineries along the trail need each other, so that there's a draw to the consumer to come to the Finger Lakes, visit, and make a weekend or a week out of it. But the experience at Three Brothers is totally unlike any other winery that you've probably ever been to. So you step out of the parking lot, your car in the parking lot, and there are 3 wineries and a microbrewery and a coffee house that you walk around to, right in upstate New York in the middle of nowhere with a beautiful view of the lake. We grow all of our own grapes and make all of our own wine and beer. We also have hard cider and craft sodas. And so when we focus so hard on the customer experience, each winery has to be totally different, because what would be the sense of having 3 wineries that are all the same, right? And so at our core, everything we do goes back to that experience and hospitality. And so I took that kind of a step further when we started to really think about how to train our staff and what the culture of Three Brothers, working for Three Brothers, is, what we want it to be like, and decided that it's also an experience for them, right? And so whether this be just a transition through life, whether they're trying to step into a hospitality job or get into the wine industry, that they need to have an experience here too. And so we've, over the years, tried to set ourselves up as the winery that you want to work at. And so that takes a lot. We have a lot of side training programs that are voluntary, that staff can come and they can sit with a winemaker. Actually, we have one this Friday. It's an hour after work. They're bringing all dry rosés from the Finger Lakes to a table, and the winemakers are going to talk about those dry rosés with anybody interested from our staff. And so we do a lot of team building. We have employee participating programs where they can, this summer they'll all bring something, a dish to pass, and we'll provide the meat and have a barbecue out in the vineyard. We'll do tie-dyeing together, and then there'll be like a weekend where everyone's wearing their tie-dye, things like that, to create that culture where it's not just a job, it's also an activity, it's something to do, it's something that you enjoy doing. And I find that most people, at least that come here to work, have some kind of interest in wine or beer. So it is already a hobby for them. And I think with the restaurant, that's where it's a bit different, because a lot of people that go to the restaurant aren't necessarily interested. Our concept is very farm to table. We have a lot of great farmers and such in the region where we can really draw from them to design our menu. And our chef there, Samantha Baskis, is renowned in our region. She actually has some notoriety. She was on Chopped on the Food Network. So that was a while ago, but we still she still gets that all the time. Where are you on Chopped? And it's her life to live and breathe food. When she's out not working, she's traveling the country and looking at service styles and menu design, and she's really thinking a lot about that. She's doing a cookbook this year. That'll be her second cookbook. But the people that she's managing within that restaurant don't necessarily have food as the top of mind for their life. They're actually people who are trying to make money. They're either in school. We have a lot of students in the area that work for us. And so that's been a challenge to get them to be really excited about what we're doing at the restaurant, as opposed to at the winery when we have people come in, because there's not many people who come here that don't really already enjoy learning and drinking wine or beer. So it is an interesting dynamic, and it's made it tough to find the right fit down there for staffing. We also have a coffee program. We have beans roasted for us at a local roastery, and so we have a really kind of good coffee program. I'm also noticing people who apply for the barista position, they're very interested in coffee already. So you're not really trying to get them to know coffee. They're already very into it. And so I don't know if that answers your question. I think that we try our hardest to integrate them all together here at the winery. We even bring the staff from the restaurant to the winery to get one-on-one training with the winemakers and the beer makers, so that they feel they understand the concept, because really the way we always saw that concept of the restaurant is to be an extension of our brand here at Three Brothers.
Well, yeah, I mean, it absolutely does. And, I think the challenge, I think a lot of times with the restaurant and the staff is it's, you've got coffee folks are naturally curious about coffee, wine folks, beer folks about those things. And if you're not necessarily as curious about food, it seems like one of the common threads that I hear a lot of people talking about are just trying to find people that kind of have a servant's heart, that get pleasure out of serving people and making people smile and making people happy, and that the money is the byproduct of that, not the objective. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
it's hard
if you
to find
think
that.
about it, I was listening to something on NPR actually, where they were saying that, back in the 80s there was this big push out west, especially for people to go to college, get a degree, and become a professional. And that's when you start seeing this interesting shift where people don't look at the trades as professions anymore, as far as, going to college and becoming that professionally. So I think there's a real shortage of professional serving staff, and that, we need to be able to pay these people more and let them live a living wage off of what they're doing, because they're who we need. More and more people are eating out now, but there's this dynamic of there's not enough servers. And so I also feel like because of that, my generation, I'm 34, there's a lot. I notice sometimes when I go down there, if we're short staffed, I'll be serving, and these people that I'm waiting on, they have no idea who I am or that I'm really involved in the business or not. They don't care. They're just trying to have a great time together. But the way some people treat servers on the other end is also, I think, part of the issue, where people don't really see themselves as professional, as kind of a job that they should be proud of. And I think that I love doing it. I love going down there and serving and talking to people and helping them enjoy their experience at the restaurant. So I think it's a little bit of the responsibility of also the patron coming in, because you're there, you're paying, you're trying to enjoy yourself, but there's no reason to treat a server like they're your servant, And so that's kind of what I've been seeing a lot of too, as I dive into the restaurant world over there.
What do you do in that situation? I mean, do you look at it like, okay, this is an opportunity to try to provide some joy to this person who's kind of treating me like crap. Maybe this person's miserable anyway in life, or whatever it is. I mean, what do you do as somebody who does have that mentality, who is so involved, and how do you handle those situations?
It's just the way I handle it in everyday life. You can't make people happy that aren't happy. So I just kind of take it with a grain of salt and continue on with my day. Don't let it affect me personally. And I try to demonstrate to the staff I'm working with that that's the way I act. I'm not going into the kitchen and talking badly about the person. I'm not whispering to another server that person was mean to me. I'm acting with integrity and treating the person the way that, I would want to be treated, or the way that they should want to be treated. And so I don't really take it to heart, but it takes thick skin. I've had some servers who've just completely lost it, walked off the floor. I've had servers who just get really flustered, and then that starts showing at their other tables that they're waiting on. And so for me, I try to be a coach and a mentor for those people, so that they can see. I'm working the floor here at the winery too. I mean, just this Saturday, I was here all day working the floor. I think that it's important as partner here, as I continue to grow in responsibility and have less and less time to do it, for me to make time to go out on the floor. And that's where I connect with the customer and the other part-time staff. I mean, I see things that I wouldn't see from my office. And so for me, it's kind of field work, and it's part of the gig. But I try to use those moments as teachable moments for the staff that's working, how I would react, how I'd like to see them react, and then give them the support too. The customer is always right, but so is the person working. If they're not feeling respected, and they're not feeling good about it, you give them support so that their day's not ruined. The customer may not be treating them correctly. It doesn't mean that, you have to just, you should also give support to your staff. That's my feeling on it. I don't ever talk poorly about the customer, but at the same time, I'm like, they're just probably having a bad day. And so I feel bad for them, not you so much. So try to keep it light, try to let everyone vent, but also move on with the day and not take it too personally.
Well, I think the time you spend on the floor too is, I admire that. And that's such a great way to lead by example. And I've got to imagine that it really, it draws a staff closer to you because they can trust and respect that, you're doing what they're doing. You're willing to go in and not just kind of lead from the top and say, do this, do that. But, you're setting an example that's easy to follow when you see it in action.
Yeah, I think that's the way a lot of small business owners probably operate. I can't imagine not doing anything myself before I ask someone else to do it. So, as we grow, we have now 30 full-timers here, and my main job is to manage the full-time staff. I have managers who manage a part-time staff, but that doesn't really mean that I don't want to also get, from them what they're looking for, and what their day looks like. And so it's really, for me, there's, like we talked about, there's really no days off. I do recharge during the week. If I need to, I'll take a day during the week because weekends are when the magic happens here. And so for me, weekends aren't really a thing,
Well, take me back. Okay, so you touched on something that I'm fascinated with, which is, the trajectory through college into a profession, and you hear a lot of this stuff I know from Gary Vee about how a lot of times folks are they're going through college because they feel like they have to go through college, and they wind up with $100,000 in student loan debt when they graduate, and no real opportunity to pay that back. And so a lot of people that are working there are probably looking at it as a job versus an opportunity for a lifetime and a career. Did you go to culinary school, or what was your background?
I went to SUNY Oneonta for dietetics. So I thought I was going to be a dietitian when I grew up. It's a little bit more downstate from where I'm located now, but this is my hometown area where I am now. I graduated from college and then decided I was going to come home, work for the summer, and then I had actually a full ride in Missouri for exercise nutrition. And so I was going to go get my master's in exercise nutrition, and I had a grad assistantship, and so it was a really sweet deal. And when I moved back here, the wine industry this was 10 years ago, so it was here. It's very established, but still working towards notoriety as we are now as a world-class wine-producing region. And so I got a job at this little tiny winery called Nagy's Newland Vineyard as a summer job just to make money while I was waiting to go to my next thing. And my whole life since I was 13 I've been in hospitality. So I started bussing tables at a diner where you had to wear a poodle skirt, and and then worked my way full time through college. I worked at an Italian restaurant in Oneonta called the Italian Kitchen, which has since closed. The owners retired, but it's always been kind of in my blood. My mom was a professional server for years and years, and then when I was in college, she went back to college actually and she works in social work now for a different county. But so it's kind of always been in my background. I didn't really look at it as a good or a bad thing. It was just kind of what I knew, like I said, my mom was a single mom and worked throughout my whole life as a server. And so when I came back here to the winery and got a job, I'd never heard of it before. And I thought, well, this will be cool because I already had interest in wine, and met the owner, Dave Mansfield, first. He had just sold his business and was building these 3 wineries, and it was just this concept. There was kind of structures here, but nothing was finished. And the small winery he bought was just operating. There were hardly any customers that ever came to it. And so I started just talking with him a lot about what his goals were for the business and helping set up some stuff, some layouts and things of each of the buildings, and got really excited about it and applied for the general manager position here 10 years ago. And so, believe it or not, I actually didn't get that position. He didn't hire me because I was right out of college and he didn't feel like I had enough experience. He said, if you want to stay, I'll make you an assistant manager. And so I just saw opportunity and said, I know I can do this and I'll prove it to you. Within the first 6 months, the general manager didn't make it. It was a lot of hard work, an incredible amount of hours. And so as we were building the business, we also built trust between myself and Dave, and now his wife, Luann, who's really involved, gotten more and more involved in the business as their kids, have grown up and gone to college and moved out of the house. And about 5 or 6 years ago now, I can't remember, they asked me to partner with them. And so they sat me down and said, like, look, we really value you. We want you to stick around. We want you to stay here. And we want you to become a partner here at the winery. And that's kind of where things started to evolve. In 2009, we opened a brewery tasting room on site. The beer was all made off site, but last year we built a $3.5 million microbrewery on site too. And so there just has been this tremendous amount of potential here for me. But I never looked at myself and said, well, this isn't a profession for me. I always thought, well, this is just kind of what I'm meant to do. I'm really interested in hospitality. I'm really interested in marketing and branding. And even though it's the hardest part of my job, it's probably also the most interesting part of my work is dealing with and handling, the big staff that we have and all of the HR that goes behind that. And so as the business has grown, it's been an incredible learning experience for me. And I'm really glad I made the choice not to get my master's and, like you said, get myself more in debt. And so I was very lucky that, I kind of consider myself one of the lucky people because also I came from a pretty poor family. And so I got a lot of financial help through low interest loans and things like that. I don't have an incredible amount of college debt behind me. I talked to some of my friends who went to school to become lawyers and doctors, and their monthly student loan payments are my mortgage payment. And so It's incredible to me and sad that that's kind of what they had to do to live their dream. And so I consider myself one of the lucky people, but I worked my butt off, and I'm still working my butt off. And so although I didn't go on to the next step, in college, it's nothing I ever regretted. I'm glad I did go to school because I don't think I would have been afforded the opportunity to even apply for the position if I didn't have that hospitality minor behind me. I don't think that just my experience in hospitality would have even gotten me a second look.
Well, but you've also got you've got a lot of grit, you've got a lot of determination, you've got a great work ethic. And one of the things you said is, which I find to be really, my kids, I've got 3 kids, and I talk to them about this stuff. And as they grow, I'll continue to try to drive it home, which is you said you talked to Dave and Luann about their goals for the business and what they were trying to do. You were focused on them and what they wanted to do and how you could facilitate that, not on you. I think that's a big thing. I think it's, and again, once again, the other stuff became the byproduct of that kind of work ethic and that focus on, helping somebody else achieve their objective. And I think it's such an important part of success in business is to have that mindset and sort of to be what you would buy, right? So, would you, like, if the situation were reversed, would you hire you? Would you want to bring you in as a partner? Would you want to, what would you need from somebody to want to facilitate their success? And it would be, those qualities I think that Dave saw, and also the determination to say, okay, fine, I'm not going to be the GM now, but I'm going to work my butt off to earn that, and not expect it, but go earn it. And you did that. So these are great qualities. You have so many natural business instincts, and It's really interesting to hear you talk about, sort of your career trajectory and where you've come from and where you are and where you have to go. Is that something that, to me, that would be something that, if I were getting into the restaurant business and maybe I'm a server, but maybe I've got that same mentality, do you feel like there are opportunities for people to grow? And I would imagine I know the answer to this with all that you are doing, but are there good career opportunities for folks to grow within the business that you all have built and are building, and to start, maybe on the bottom floor, but build into something that, if you've got that same work ethic and that same passion to help the business achieve its goals, do people have opportunities to grow and have a true lifelong career within what y'all are doing?
There absolutely is. Yes, every single person who works here has done that. And so every single person who works here full time started in the tasting room. And, anybody who hasn't started in the tasting room, quite frankly, hasn't worked out. I can use a lot of examples of people that work here that are just incredible success stories, and they're still continuing to strive and reach for more. One that comes to mind is, so I have a VP of operations here. Her name is Michaela. She went to school for Chinese language, and when she came here, she was working at a local hotel, and she was just kind of looking for a job, trying to figure out what she wanted to do. And she was applying for jobs in, another country. She's applying for teaching jobs, and her focus is completely on what she thinks she's supposed to do with her degree. And when, she was just a great employee. She was showing up before or on time. She was volunteering to work extra hours. She was taking on more responsibility. She was approaching me for more responsibility as a part-timer. And when a job came open for her, I said, hey, I said to her, I know this isn't what you think you want to do, but you're doing a really good job at this. And if you want it, here it is. And so she said, you know what, I really love working here. I love what I'm doing. And so I think I'm going to do this. And she did. And she's still here today. She's been here for 6 or 7 years. She's grown from a tasting room manager to the VP of operations for all of the tasting rooms. And so that's a great success story example. I have another person, her name is Barb. She started in the tasting room, and she had a background in retail management. She worked at for Aldo Shoes, in a mall setting, and she was a manager there, and just hated retail, just didn't want to be involved in it anymore. And so she came to the tasting rooms as a part-timer, and then again she just said, I really like it here, and I want to make a place for myself. And so these are people who see that once they start working hard and let go of what can my title be here, that you recognize. You can't go a day without recognizing the hard work that they do. She does all the visual merchandising for all of the businesses now, and she's a tasting room manager. I have another person. Her name is Cassie. She doesn't have a background where she went to college. She was taking some classes at a community college when I met her, and she was interested. She thought becoming a nurse. And so she started working here and saying, wait a minute, this is for me, and I can do this, and I want to do this. So how can I set myself up for success? And all of these people, all they did was just work hard and ethically and honestly and day in and day out with a good positive attitude. So I think that, the opportunity there, I can tell you a ton of stories of people that also didn't work out. Maybe not a ton, because we've only had a few, luckily, but there's been people who come in at a management level and they're just missing something. And usually I think it's just that background of understanding and knowing what you're asking your employees to do before you do it, and then also knowing that your title doesn't entitle you. And so you have to kind of recognize that coming in and really be humble and figure out what it means to you to work hard and how you can work for your peers. I tell them every day, I'm working for you here. And so my door is always open. You can come in. And I understand that they're the front line. And I've learned a lot of this throughout the years from, just learning through self-improvement, but also from Dave and Luann Mansfield here, my partners. They've put a lot of trust and capability in me to just go out and do it. And so I'm not micromanaged here. I think if I had to be micromanaged, it'd be a totally different story because I'm pretty independent. But I earned that as well, and so they didn't just say, here's the keys, do whatever you want. They said that you've proven yourself and we want you to be more independent here. We trust your intuition and you're making the company money. And so, there's also that whole thing, and we talk a lot about this company being 10 years old. Every single, dime we make in the company, we've turned back around and put it back into the company. And someday there's going to be a day where that's not going to happen, but that's not this year, because we're so interested in growing. But the other key point, keeping good people and making people happy, is paying them a living wage. And so I have a lot of colleagues that we talk, behind closed doors about our businesses and get advice and really have honest conversations. And some of the things I say to them is, look, you got to pay these people more. You can't expect them to stick around for that. They can't live off of that. And so that's also an important key. I mean, I don't lead with that, but it is definitely a thing. Nobody can work for 10 years for, the same lifestyle as they lived 10 years ago. So it's an important thing, I think, to also recognize.
Well, one thing that, I always find it interesting, like the things I would call measurable and the things that are immeasurable. So you can measure what you're paying somebody. Mm-hmm. But what you can't measure is if you don't pay them enough and they leave, what is the cost to your business of losing that person, of finding somebody to replace them, all the training that has to be done and so forth. That's not really measurable. And so paying folks well so that they want to stick around and just eliminating that problem from the business makes the business run so much smoother. And while you look at your costs and go, gosh, this is something I can see on a piece of paper, you can't see that immeasurable, downside of constantly having to, replace people because you're not paying them enough. And I'm sure that's the conversation you have with those folks.
Well, there's also the downside of having the same people on the team if the team is stagnant. So bringing new, blood, new life into the business is always a positive thing too. So I don't want to make it sound like we're not interested in that, and that's not the case at all. I'm more interested in also nourishing these people that started with us and giving them the tools that they need to improve and continue to excel. And I think that if they're the right person, then they want to do that. And so we're lucky here that we've been able to find some people that are really interested in continuing to improve their professional life, and not just kind of day in and day out. Nobody wants the grind. And so once you're there, you might as well just, you just can't work every day like that and be happy. And that's what we're all here for, is to we spend most of our lives at work. And so you might as well be happy here doing it. There's always problems here and there, but if you take them and look at them in perspective and try to continue to be positive, I mean, that's the key.
I could talk to you all day. I love this, but I know you're busy, so I'm going to let you roll. I will say this has been awesome, and you have an infectious personality, Erica, and just very. I bet you inspire a lot of people that are around you. So I really appreciate this. I will say, since you listen to podcasts, have you listened to How I Built This?
No, I haven't.
Check it out. I bet you'd like it. It's an NPR podcast, but they interview people that have built businesses, and many of them you would know. I mean, anybody from like the guy who founded Patagonia, Kate Spade, Dell Computers, Cliff Bars, Virgin Airlines. I mean, all these folks have built successful businesses, and it just kind of has, they share their story and what they did and what they've learned, and so you might enjoy that as well.
Oh, great! I love a new podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, you'll get addicted. You'll start rolling through those things pretty fast. It's a really good one. But hey, listen, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you, and you all. And by the way, thank you for your business. I mean, you've been a customer of Schedulefly for 10 years at Three Brothers Winery, so that means the world to us, and we are just humbled and thankful for the chance to serve you and your crew for all that time.
Oh, thank you too. It's been a lifesaver. I used to just get Post-it notes and time off requests written on the back of a napkin or a receipt paper, and they were just all over the place. I had my own Excel sheet trying to keep track of them all, and it was just, I thought to myself, I actually tried a different, I can't remember what the name of it was, but I tried a different one before I found Schedulefly, and once I found Schedulefly, I was like, this is it. It saved me so much time. So I really appreciate you guys and what you do too, and thank you for the chat. It's been a good way to start off my Monday.
Good. All right. Well, cool. Well, listen, I'll let you roll. Thank you. Have a great week, and we're always around if you need anything.
Okay. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Bye.